Hi, welcome to Unscripted with me, Grace, from our beautiful location, Radisson in Arboretum. Now, our conversation today is not an easy one, so I found a quote to sort of help me introduce it. It says, "Our first love relationship is with our mother. It is our earliest understanding of connection, trust, and commitment. When this relationship is imbalanced, it creates a mother wound." On today's show, with my guest, we have a conversation about mother wounds and how they can affect us for a very long time if we don't face it and deal with it. So stay right there and let the show begin.
I'm just here to encourage you that it doesn't matter the wound that you carry, the pain that you carry, you can overcome. And more than anything, my prayer is that you will overcome, that you will achieve your highest potential, and that by God's grace, you will be able to just do the things that God designed for you to be.
Hi there, welcome to Unscripted. Thank you, as always, for making time for us. We are so grateful. And of course, like I mentioned before, we are at the beautiful location that is Radisson Blue in Arboretum. And with me is Judy, our guest today. We're about to have a difficult conversation because I think anything concerning our close people, family, parents, children, is sensitive. So thank you for being willing to share your story. But before we get into it, you can tell people who you are, what you do, what you'd like the public to know about you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like you said, my name is Judy Mzungu Hakula.
Okay.
I'm a Kingdom Life Coach right now. That's what I do for a living.
What does that mean?
I run a coaching program that is essentially or basically based on biblical perspectives.
Oh, good.
Yes, and I also run a program called the Realignment program.
Got it.
So we'll talk about my story, then you'll understand the whole basis of
why you started it.
Why we started the Realignment program.
So like I said before, you reached out to me,
Yes.
and this happens to be Mother's Day season, and we're celebrating our moms, but you told me, it's not the same for everyone.
Yes.
Some people have mother wounds.
Yes.
So tell me your story and what you meant by having a mother wound.
Having a mother wound is basically about you carrying a wound that has been inflicted by your mother. And many people now, I realize, especially in my coaching practice, is that many people do carry wounds that were inflicted by their mothers. But because society doesn't talk about it, and especially when it comes to Mother's Day, we seem to, glorify the whole motherhood thing and not talk about the wounds that were inflicted sometimes by mothers, and not necessarily from the place of blaming them, but from the place of us learning as the next generation, so that we then understand and speak to other people so that they can understand how then they can be able to heal if probably they went through mother wounds, or just to be careful when they deal with their own children. Yet
we do that for fathers, don't we? We're more vocal about, daddy issues and this and that. But when it comes to moms, you're right, we don't
talk about it. It's because who throws the party anyway? It's the women. So So what are the chances that we're going to talk about the things that sometimes were done by women, not knowing, sometimes, and those things happen from generation to generation. I see them even today when some parents treat children differently. They don't understand that actually is a wound, an emotional wound that you're inflicting upon a child that is going to affect them emotionally, that is going to affect their futures and their destinies. And this is a conversation that is important for us to talk about, so that for a moment women can stop to think.
I'd like that, because I think naturally we expect, and we are, or we think we all are, as moms, we are nurturing, not perfect, just it should come naturally to nurture and to love our children.
Yes.
But for you, your story is different.
Yes.
Take us back to the beginning. What happened? Where did it all start crumbling?
I think it crumbled at birth.
Please tell us.
It crumbled at birth because my mother was, first of all, married into a polygamous home.
I see.
And she wasn't married into a polygamous home by choice.
Okay.
She was forced into a polygamous situation.
Okay.
So when she got married, she first had the firstborn, turned out a girl, the secondborn turned out a girl, the thirdborn turned out a girl, and she got pregnant again.
Okay.
And this one time, she was expecting to get a boy.
Number 4.
Number 4.
That would be you.
Now that would be me. To validate her position in the home. So I guess I was just the trump card that failed. So when this happened, maybe, of course, in those days, they didn't know postnatal depression, that's what they call it.
Yeah.
Yes, I think at that time they didn't know postnatal
it.
depression. Maybe that's what she went through when I sit down to think about it.
Probably.
But
and it was never treated or addressed, nothing.
Sorry?
I'm saying, and it was never treated or addressed.
No.
Yeah, must have been.
But somehow, I guess even when she would narrate those stories, she didn't know that it affected me, because I didn't learn it from anyone else. I learned it from herself.
Okay, tell us what happened.
So she refused to breastfeed me, for starters.
Like she had you?
Yes.
And she said, oh, it's a girl. I'm not.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
And she told you this?
Yes.
And what was her reason? Like, how did she explain that to you? Like, Judy, I didn't breastfeed you when you were a baby because...
Now when I really think, it's the memory is kind of faded, I guess, because of healing. But I know that it had a lot to do with my gender.
Really?
Yes.
So no breastfeeding, What else?
And then she didn't take me for inoculation. And in those days, because it was in the 70s, inoculation, I think either it was just being introduced or whatever, so they would actually come looking for you to ask you, have you taken your child for vaccination? My mother would hide me.
Really? Like intentionally keep you away?
Yes.
Wow.
And I think for her, it was an attempt to do away with me.
Wow. Was your father present at this time, or he was in and out? Was he at home with you?
He was present, but one thing you have to realize about my mother, she had a very strong, domineering personality. And then she was also wounded. I mean, this was a woman who was forced into marriage, and how she got married, by the way, was very interesting. She says she was at the farm, and then she saw a vehicle coming. And when she saw that vehicle, she saw some men negotiating. And before long, she was put in the vehicle.
Oh, no.
And she found herself in Nairobi, married to a man who was way, way older than her.
She doesn't know him, nothing.
Yeah. And
So
he was way older. And then so she came into a situation where sometimes she almost like was age-mate with some of his
children.
Yes.
Oh, my.
So this is a woman who had dashed hopes, dashed dreams. And you understand? So there was a lot of bitterness and anger that was going on. And then, of course, coupled with a very strong personality, I think it would be very difficult for anyone to kind of stop her.
Okay.
Yes. So that's what happened. And so that's where I said it crumbled down at birth.
Wow.
But what was very, very interesting for me, I think the other thing is by the time I was just born, my dad was just about to retire. Remember I told you there was an age difference, eh?
What is the age difference?
Between my mom and my dad.
Oh, you're saying between the two of them?
Yeah, between the two of them. There was kind of an age difference.
Okay.
So by the time
by the fourth child?
Yes, by the time the fourth child is coming, he's just about to retire.
Got it.
And so I had a lot of quality time with my dad.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But other than that, I think because of that rejection that happened at the point of birth, I didn't quite have a connection with my mother.
At no one
Even
point?
as a child.
Really?
Yes.
Do you see like how when young girls look up to their moms or want to... How was it with you? What is the dynamic?
I cried daddy. Like even if I was taken to hospital, the nurses would marvel, which child is this who is crying daddy and not crying mommy?
Really?
Yeah.
That's heavy. At any point did your father intervene? Did you try and tell him... I don't know in what way a child would communicate that, but did you try and communicate with your father?
No, I was whole with my dad. That doesn't make sense to you.
So you didn't need mom?
No, I didn't.
What?
I didn't. I cried daddy as a child from the time I was young, from the time I was an infant.
How did you... I find this so difficult to understand. Did it affect you psychologically at some point, emotionally? Not having a
I think it
present.
affected me, but I couldn't pin down the root. Even as a child, I had a lot of anger. I would cry and bang my head on the floor.
Like the proper tantrum.
Yes.
Yikes.
There was just something different about me. And I think now, you know, when growing up, people would say you have a very strong personality, you're a fighter. But it's because, Grace, I had to fight for my life from the time I was young. I didn't have a choice, you understand? Yeah. So it's because there's something inside of me that now came out fighting.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, but that formed now my personality.
I see. And I'm curious, usually, like I said, I think we talk a lot about father wounds and the father gap,
Yes.
daddy issues.
Yes.
And usually for girls who maybe don't have a present father or maybe they're there but there's just no connection, tend to look for that love elsewhere. So did you go through any season of looking for that motherly touch or no?
It's interesting. Even up to today, I find it very difficult to connect with a woman.
Of course, you didn't have an example.
Yes, it's easier for me to connect with a father figure than it would be for me to connect with a mother figure. And I don't know, for some reason, whether it's a pattern, whether it's me who is the problem or the women that are the problem, but I just find a repeat of lack of genuineness.
Really?
Yes.
With all the relationships of
the women
female.
that I've found, yes, of the women that I've found around me. So I'll have like spurts, short spurts of women coming into my life, but then I understand what it is that I want to draw out of you.
Yeah.
You get. So I'll know maybe for this particular season of my life, maybe I'm just about to get married, but I've found a lack of consistency in women, a lack of loyalty in women, you understand? Maybe because I saw that in my father. And maybe no woman is kind of able to really measure up in that way. So I didn't look for a mother figure, and I haven't quite gotten to that place where I can say, now I've found a mother.
Did you have a grandmother, an auntie you were close to? Really?
No.
As we wrap this part, did you seek counseling?
No. I didn't know. I didn't know that I was carrying all these.
You didn't?
I didn't know, and I didn't know it affected me. Realized that I have a strong personality. So I kind of, I became independent, and yet I had anger issues, and I didn't know that there was something I needed to deal with.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, you can tell us at what point you realized, something is not right.
Yeah.
So stay right there. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now, before the break, we were just trying to understand the reality of not being okay with your mom and having a wound that affects you for a long time if you don't deal with it.
Yes.
And you said for you didn't know when you would be angry or your relationships with other women were not working and you just couldn't figure out or you didn't realize there was a problem.
Yeah.
So what triggered and made you realize something is off?
It's interesting. It's getting married that made me understand that there was something wrong with me.
Yeah?
Yes.
Why?
Because someone came so close to me that I saw myself for who I really was.
That's deep. He mirrored.
Yes.
Yeah, it's powerful.
And then I think because he has a calm personality, he allowed me kind of to heal. I don't know how that happened. But I remember having a very high expectation, even in marriage, in terms of, because I came from rejection and I didn't know that I was carrying rejection wounds. So my expectation in terms of, I need 110% commitment, I need 100%, 10% security, I need 110% love. You understand? It's just placing a very high demand on people that no one else can really fulfill.
Do you think that's why your relationships with other people were difficult? You were expecting more than they could give?
Because I came from a place where
you didn't have it.
I didn't have it. I was looking to attach. Does that make sense to you?
So you were looking for a mother's love in other places?
In other places, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was looking for attachment. And yet now, because, by the way, what happens when you have rejection, starting from wherever you came from, you have that thing that it's a rejection that spirals and spirals and spirals because you have not learned the art of attachment.
I see.
So for me, it was in getting married and having someone very close to me, then I began to heal, sometimes without knowing. But then I remember one time we were watching TV, and then there was this girl who was talking about rejection. And as I looked at the TV, almost like as if I was looking at someone from the outside. I'm like, do you know that thing is very difficult? And my husband looked at me and asked me, do you know it was so hard to live with you for the first 6 months of marriage?
Really?
Yes.
So that's when he felt like he could audibly tell you.
Yes, that this is
what we've been.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we were watching TV. It was almost like I was looking at someone else.
And seeing yourself.
And seeing myself.
Wow.
And seeing who I was, or seeing my journey.
And when that happened, what did you do when you realized what you were dealing with? What is your road to healing? Yeah.
I started to empathize with my mother.
Oh, wow.
Yes. I had to take a journey, Grace, that told me my mother was young. How was it for her being bundled into a vehicle, finding yourself in Nairobi, finding yourself with a way older man, and having to make this marriage work?
So this is later when you're married, yeah?
Yes.
So at no point did it change between you and your mom? Whether as a little girl, a teenager, at no point did your relationship morph into something better?
I guess it was difficult because I realized my mom had a strong personality. And then the 3 sisters ahead of me were kind of calm. They're more phlegmatic. They're calmer than I was.
I see.
Then I turn out.
So you're a lot like her?
No, I was a lot like her, yes.
Look at that.
So I turn out one, I'm more of a fighter, I'm more the one who is speaking out, I'm more, you understand, yeah? So of course there was that, there was a personality clash in the first place, and then there's also the fact that I also had to deal with this that had happened to me as a child, which probably, I'm sure she also didn't know had affected me. Yeah.
Did you ever have a conversation with your mom about this?
We did. You know, my mom was sick for a while, eh? So I remember like just about the time when she was very, very unwell, and my mom hadn't given her life to Christ. I was born again at that particular point in time, and I remember, you know, one time coming from church and just singing for her hymns and just telling her, you know, Mom, God loves you and I love you, you know. I guess I honestly did love her, but I just didn't know how to connect with her.
So did you ever have an open, honest conversation of, Mom, this hurt me, this is why I'm like this?
No, because I didn't know, Grace.
There was no space for that?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know until I got married. I didn't know that this is what I was carrying.
And she wasn't alive?
No, by that time she was dead and buried.
Really?
Yes.
Do you regret never having the conversation?
No.
Okay, good.
No. Because I know that I was at a good place in my heart at that particular point in time. And I knew that I had to take my healing journey. And because of that, now I understand that sometimes even in your healing, you don't necessarily have to have a conversation with the other person. It really is about you.
I see. So when Mother's Day comes around, what happens to Judy?
When Mother's Day comes around, I find a call to go back to women and tell them you can do better.
Really?
Yes. Every Mother's Day since 2019, by God's grace, doors are always open for me. 2019, I did a message in church just talking about mother wounds. And of course it was unpopular because people don't talk about it. But I said, you know what, there's a need for you to reach out to other women. Sometimes they may not be your biological children. But there's a need for women to go out and nurture other women. There's a need for you to introspect and ask yourself, what wounds are you carrying so that you can heal for the sake of the next generation?
For you, what was the most painful thing? And how did you overcome that part?
The most painful thing, I'm not so sure what the most painful thing was. I honestly can't.
Okay.
I can't, because even now when I think about my mother's death and my father's death as an example, I remember my father's death. When my dad died, my world ended.
Oh, is that so?
Yes.
It broke your heart?
Yes. But not that I didn't mourn my mother's death, but my dad's death finished me.
Wow.
Because this was my pillar. This was my everything.
Wow.
And so it's important. It's important for us as women also just to be able to understand that there's a place for us to heal so that we are able to do a better job. And actually, let me tell you a conversation that I remember I had with my mom. This time, a neighbor of ours had died. And in as much as there was this rejection, maybe at childhood, I remember as a child, my mom taking us to Uhuru Park on Sunday, taking photos.
You remember?
I remember that.
Oh, that's okay.
Yes. And so I remember that there was a part of her, she was full of life.
Mm-hmm. So it's not all bad memories.
No. Yes, she was full of life and she loved life. In her own little ways, she'd like to celebrate and reach out to other people, and she loved in her own. Yes, I remember that. And so I remember this time when a neighbor of ours died. And when our neighbor died, I went to her and asked her, Mom, can we go and say Paul? And she's like, no.
Okay.
And I remember, Grace, very clearly. If you take me back to that house, I can tell you where we were standing. I told her, Mom, I miss the old you. What happened to you? You were full of love. And she told me, life made me this way.
Why do you remember that part? What changed?
I remember that part because I made a decision, Grace, that life would never change me. That life would never take the best part of me because life took the best part of my mother. It's life that made her that way. It was the expectations of the world of a son, and she couldn't deliver.
So you feel like after you came, she became a different person? After
I came and everything else that went on after that. She was rejected in the home that she got married into, and she probably didn't handle it well.
Did you blame yourself, Judy?
No, I don't. But I just know that my mother let life take the best part of her, and I made a choice, Grace, that would never happen to me. I choose to laugh no matter what.
That's good. That's good. Before we go on a break, this could be an invasive question, so forgive me. Do you have children?
No, I don't. Not yet.
Okay. How do you plan to mother differently if you want to be a mother when you do?
One, I honestly speaking, I know, for example, there's been a delay in my getting a child. But I'm grateful to God. And now when I look at it, I'll make a better mother now than I would when I got married.
Oh, I see.
The healing journey I'm a better person. I know I'll be a better mother. I'm at a better place. I'm ready now.
You're ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Then I wasn't ready. And that's why I was telling you societal expectations. Because people keep on asking you, where is the baby? Where is the baby? Where is the baby? They don't even know what emotions that you're dealing with and all that. Yes. And sometimes it's good for you to just be able to take your own journey and be able, not that, if you ask me now, not that I had planned, but if it's a God thing and I believe it's a God thing, I'm at a good place now.
Amen. I think when you come back, you can tell people at home who maybe now are realizing, hang on, I think I may have a wound and I didn't know.
Yes.
You can tell them how you got to that place of healing, like practical tips and just walking them through how to achieve that. So stay right there. We'll be back in a few. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now, I'd like us to go, like I said before the break, practical steps on how you got to that place of healing. And then I want to know the last conversation you had with your mom and how that went. So go. You can tell us, how do you get to a place of literally being born into rejection and then finding your love and acceptance and healing in later in life? How did you do that?
First, I had to take my mother's journey. I had to empathize with her, so to speak. So the first thing I remembered is how she got married in the first place. I think that was sad. It should not happen to anyone. And for her, it was broken dreams, broken hopes, and all that. And so when I was able to look at that and begin to empathize with her from that perspective, it helped me to understand other things. The second thing, this lady came and she found rejection in her marital home. Many women find that, and many people deal with it differently. I think for her, it turned out to be anger. So I also had to empathize with her from that perspective.
So she went through rejection as well?
She went through rejection in her marital home. So once I was able to look at it that way and understand that, you know what, she did this because she didn't know better. I was what looked to her like a card that didn't work out the way she expected. I just was a disappointment for her at a point that this was her final hope.
It takes a lot for someone to come to the place you're in, because naturally as human beings it would be anger and bitterness and not forgiveness, but you sound like coming from a place of forgiveness and empathy.
Yes.
So I'd like you to emphasize on that to someone at home who could be in a situation where I feel like the answer or the first step to any misunderstanding is forgiveness and empathy.
Yeah. In fact, by the way, I don't even think forgiveness. I was having a discussion with someone yesterday, and I was saying many times you tell people forgive, forgive, forgive. It's easy. It actually works out in the reverse. Where first you have to empathize, look at the other person, and then once you empathize and you understand their situation, then you understand they are the problem.
That's how you're able to forgive.
Don't even run to forgive. Then begin to heal. You yourself first.
Okay.
So when you heal, then you begin to tell yourself, you acknowledge that this is what I went through. This is what happened to me. I went through rejection. My mother did know better. Then I got into this whole sibling situation. What tends to happen when a woman is wounded, they're not able to love their children equally.
Equally?
Yes. You know, the way everyone expects, spend our watoto wako because they are 3, 4, love them equally. No, you don't have capacity.
Really?
Yes. And that's why most of our homes, I'll say it today, like it or hate me for it, but most of our homes are divided. Why? Because the women are also broken. So everyone is trying to live their hopes through their children. But if you have healed and you have found your own sense of identity, you don't see these children as an extension of yourself. You see them and you're able to love them for who they are, not because you're expecting them to validate you in any way.
I think I saw a quote this week. As parents, you need to fix your broken self so that you can love your children whole.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
I see.
So once I was able to look at that situation and see it that way and just be able to understand it. And then I began now to accept this is what you've gone through, Judy, and take time alone to heal. I stepped out, took time alone to heal and accept this is what happened. It had nothing to do with my mother, and this is what happened to her. But now I have to deal with Judy and my wounds for the sake of my next generation and for the sake of my destiny, because I have a life to live. My mother is gone. Hers is settled.
Yeah.
So I need to sort me out.
That's true.
So then now I began, that's how my healing journey continued. And then also coming to the place of finding the right place for God. Okay. Remember when I was telling you that initially I also had those challenges of holding on to people because of the rejection and in the insecurity of where I came from. I was expecting 110% from people, and really no one can give you that.
Of course. Absolutely no one.
Yes. Yeah. So once you begin to heal, you have realistic expectations of other people. And guess what? Then you have wholesome relationships. Oh,
I hope people are like writing down and tweeting that. Realistic expectations.
Yes. Yeah. And then you have wholesome relationships because you know what it is that you expect from other people. And when they fail you, because they'll fail you, they're just human, it's easier for you to forgive.
That's true.
Once you're able to take that journey, then it becomes easier to even forgive the other person. Why? Because you rise above whatever happened. You become a new identity that doesn't run away from what happened to you. I don't run away from my story. This is my story. This is what has made Judy. So because I'm not running away from this story and I'm able to rise up above it, then I'm able to forgive that which happened to me because it is operating at a lower level than I am.
That's powerful.
And that's where maybe people tend to miss it, because you want to forgive when you're still dealing.
And you're not ready.
And you're not ready. But once you're able to open the wound, clean it with GV like we used to, you know, in the past.
Growing up, yeah.
With GV, as painful as it is, so that now you're not able to attract the problems that you used to attract in the past. Because for me, I was attracting rejection. Why was I attracting rejection? Because this is what I'm carrying within me.
That's powerful.
But then once you begin to clean that wound, and then now you're not attracting the same things that you used to attract in the past, you become a whole person, you're attracting new things, and you rise above whatever situation that was there below you. That's the way to overcome.
Well done. When did you realize you'd forgiven your mom?
When I'm able to speak about it with no emotion.
Okay.
Do you remember I was talking to you about this show, and I never once mentioned my mom because I had forgotten, literally. Do you remember?
I see.
Yes, yes. Because it's not a big thing anymore. And if I talk about it, I'm talking about it to teach other people.
Okay.
I'm not talking about it from the place of blame or anything. I've made peace with it, and as I make peace with it, as I share my story, it also is able to help another person with their own healing journey, not necessarily from a mother's perspective, but whatever healing journey that you're going through, for you to just be able to see that, you know what, people are human, they will wrong us, they will inflict wounds on us, but there is a way we can still overcome, find ourselves, and be able to rise above it.
So like you said, purpose of helping other people. People at home now are watching, and you do have sort of organization that you have. Tell us more about it and how they can reach you.
Okay. I run a program called the Realignment program.
Okay.
So the Realignment program is basically about you aligning body, soul, and spirit. If your body, soul, and spirit are not aligned, you cannot function.
That's true.
And what happens, the soul is actually the main thing. That's the one that gets taken out the moment you are carrying wounds of the past. And when your soul is out of alignment because you're carrying especially emotional wounds that affected your emotions, what then happens, you're not able to function even as spiritually.
That's true.
That makes many of us, maybe sometimes born again Christians of whatever faith, but you just feel that you're not operating in alignment. Sometimes you cannot pray, or even if you're praying, you feel like nothing is really happening. It's as a result of all those things that were happening.
You're carrying too much.
Yes.
But
let me tell you, Grace, I found my purpose when I healed. And that's a call for everyone. The wounds that we are carrying, sometimes it's just too much and it's holding so many things behind. It's important for us to just learn to let go for the sake of our destinies. And so that's what the Realignment program is really about. It's about us. It's about me, knowing that I've come from there and I know that there's a way out. I'm coming back to the trenches to get you because I know that I was there and I can get you out.
Well done.
And it's not theory, I know. And there's been a lot of success from the Realignment program based on the fact that we approach it from a spiritual perspective and we approach it from the place of understanding the patterns that we must take for you to be able to get you out to the place of wholeness.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now that you are, like you said when we spoke, you felt like you hardly even spoke about this issue because you've healed and it's in the past.
Yes.
So what can we, in this new season, what can we expect from Judy? Who's heal and hold and ready to take on the world? What's to come?
This new version of Judy is just about going to impact lives, touch lives, you know, just spread a message of inspiration, a message of hope for people who have given up on life, who have given up on themselves. And the reason why you have given up on your life is because you're out of alignment. So for us to just go back and be able to speak to people and tell them it's possible, so that healing is not something that's out there that cannot be done for other people. It's accessible, it's affordable, and all of us can do it. Too many of us, we don't want to accept our reality. The moment you accept, that's your first step into the next phase of your life. And I just want to wish you all the best. God bless you.
Thank you so much. And that's how you end the show. First step of healing, acceptance.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you at home for making time for us. I hope her story has impacted someone. She shared all her details. You can reach out to her. And this is our community, Unscripted, where we have these kind of conversations, hoping and praying that someone somewhere is has some hope and is uplifted and is helped. Thank you once again for watching. Special thanks to Radisson for hosting us. But until next week, goodbye and God bless.